Well, hello, robotics students. We're going to go through some basic setup for ROBOTC, which is the coding program you're going to use to generate code for your Swerve bot. So today we're going to create a template that we can use to create other program on, so we don't have to continually go through and set our defaults. Right, and that all starts off on our desktop here. You'll notice you've got two ROBOTC programs, and I've got kind of a messy desktop. Don't judge me. I've got some other things on there. But out of these two ROBOTC programs, we want to use ROBOTC for Vex. It's this circular looking menu. The other one's a graphical robot program, and we want to use just regular ROBOTC for Vex. So I've been in here, I've already set up some different things, so my screen may look a little different than yours. Don't worry about that right now. We'll go through and set a couple of defaults here, excuse me, so that you can program that Swerve bot. So we're going to start out by going over to the new file button and clicking on that. And you can see it puts our task main on here, it puts our opening and closing curly brace. I want to get you some of these different menus that I've got over here now. And so why don't we come up top to the robot tab. You're going to click on that, and then we're going to come down to platform type. And I've already selected them, but I want you to make yours look like mine does. And so first of all, let's come over here where it says Vex Robotic and make sure we've got the 2.0 Cortex selected. And now when you click on that, the robot tab is going to close. So we're going to have to come back up here, go to platform type again. Right, make sure you've got the 2.0 Cortex selected. Again, when you click on that, the robot tab may close. And then make sure you've got the natural language PLTW coding program selected. So one last thing I want you to check under the robot menu or the robot tab is if you come to the Vex Cortex communication mode, right, make sure that you are communicating with USB only. That means we're only going to send code to the robot via that orange USB cord that we used with the Clawbot. Right? So now that we've set up some defaults in here, it would be a good time for us to save this. So go ahead and click on save. And I would recommend, we set up this Google Drive file stream yesterday. I would save stuff to your Google file stream. Right? So I'm going to go to my drive. Right, I've already got a robotics folder set up in here. So I'm going to go into my robotics folder. You could create one at this point if you don't have one. And I'm going to call this my master file. Oh, fat fingers. All right, we'll try that again. Master file. I've already got one called a master file, so I'm going to add the number 1 to this. I'll go ahead and click save. And so when I start making the different codes, I'm going to open this master file, and then I'll do a file save as. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to set up our motor and sensor setup menu. And when you first come in here, I think it goes to the standard model. We're going to click on the motors tab first. Now, if we don't know where those motors are, what we'll have to do is search for our SwerveBot directions. And kind of refresh us on what we plugged in where on this bot. So if we jump down to page 27 on these SwerveBot instructions, and here's where we start plugging stuff in. So I can see on my directions here that the right motor was plugged into motor port 2. So I want to make my ROBOTC motor and sensor setup menu match what I did for the bot. So in here I'm going to start typing the word motor. Oh, I'll do that with a lowercase m. Right in port 2. Then I got to go in and tell it what type of motor we're using. We have 393 motors in our class. Okay, port 3 is going to be my motor left. And again, we have 393 motors in our class. Now, if we look at the instructions, right, you'll notice the motors aren't facing the same direction. They're like a mirror image of each other here. So I need to set one of these as reversed in ROBOTC. And so I'm going to come in here. We'll just do the standard. So every bot acts the same way. We're going to reverse the first motor. We're not going to mess around with these last three for now. So we'll go ahead and click OK. I've already set up a file path. I've located this on my Google Drive stream. So I'm going to click Save just to update this. And you can see we're getting some text showing up at the top here telling us what different motors and sensors we have at our disposal when we start creating a program down below. So now I'm going to go over to these next two tabs. I've got a VEX 2.0 analog sensors. I've got ports 1 through 8. And then I've also got digital sensors that I can hook up. And I've got 12 different digital options. So we'll just come back to our Swervebot instructions and keep scrolling through here. Here we've got two shaft encoders that are plugged into the digital ports. They are digital ports 1 through 4. And if I scroll back up here, you can see the right motor is on the back side of my object. And so when I name these two shaft encoders, the one that's in 1 and 2 is going to be shaft encoder right. The one that's plugged into digital ports 3 and 4, I'm going to call shaft encoder left. And just so when I call for something to work with the right motor, it'll line up with this backside. All right, so shaft encoder right is going to be ports 1 and 2, left will be 3 and 4. So I'm going to come in here. I'll make sure I'm on the digital tab. I'm going to pick my sensor first. This is my encoder, but I've got a quadrature encoder, which is a 2-port encoder. You can see it showing up here. And I'm going to call it my encoder right. And I hit enter, so it showed up there. I meant to click the tab button. Now I'm going to come down to my quadrature encoder here, and I'll call this one encoder left. I'm going to click apply to update that. I'll go back to my directions, and I'm going to scroll through. All right, next thing we did is we set up 2 bump switches in ports 7 and 6. Okay, again, port 7 is on the back side, so I'm going to call that my right bump switch. Port 6, I'm going to call my left bump switch. So again, we'll come back in here. All right, I've got a short memory. Port 7. Yep, port 7 is going to be my right. And so I'll come to 7. All right, this is going to be my touch. All right, and I'll just call this switch. Now let's switch left. All right, so you can kind of see the pattern that I've got going on here. I've entered in a couple, so I'm going to click OK, come back here and save this, just so if something happens, I don't lose my work. And you are going to keep working your way through here. Each time something gets plugged in, you're going to set that up on the motor and sensor setup menu. The last one I wanted to show you here, and then I'm going to let you do the rest on your own, was these line followers. And just take note, they're not in digital ports, they're in analog ports, 3, 2, and 1. And so we want to get those 3 line sensors set up. And again, this one on the back side, that's in port 3, I'm going to call right. I'll call port 2 center, and I'll call port 1 the left. So I got to go to my analog tab. I'm going to set up 3 line followers. All right, and then I'll go ahead and I'll call it my follower left. All right, this one would be follower center and follower right. So my time is running short. I'm going to let you wrap this up. Remember, save this file when you're all done, because we're going to be using it later on.